Hello and welcome everyone. I'm HatTopGaming here, and today we have a very special episode shining a light on a brand new indie game in Dice a Million. A brand new indie game that just came out that's inspired by the likes of Balatro and other similar roguelikes about rolling dice to get the high score needed in order to beat the boss at the end of the level and keep rising up the ranks as you face the three bosses of the game and trying to escape. We're just going to be going over some first impressions that I had, the good and bad of the game, what I think it could change, and my general opinion as to whether or not you should pick this up. So first things first, I do want to clarify what I meant. I do very much see the DNA here that is showing the inspiration from games like Balatro, and we've seen a lot of games come out and try to do the same thing. These roguelikes built around simple tabletop games or just similar games that you've already heard of, and then just taking that, adding roguelike elements, and just overall trying to get you to beat the high score in order to complete all the levels and beat the bosses. So the way this game works is you pick a hand that basically counts as the poker deck, like in Balatro. You pick that hand and it comes with different abilities, and then you go about rolling the dice here. It's very simple. You get to draw a set amount of dice randomly from what you have available, and then you go ahead and pick as many as you can from there. And you roll them, and each of them can have different abilities, how much they can score, different multipliers, and so on. So outside of rolling the dice and whatever face they may have, of course, there's also elemental abilities. You can upgrade the dice, they can have their own abilities, they can have more faces, they can combine with one another, they can add multipliers, and so on. You also can see in the top left corner there are stamps that you can add. They're basically like the planet cards from Balatro, where they basically just increase the multiplier of just certain numbers showing up. After every successful completion of a certain round, then you get to go back to a shop where you can buy different cards, other dice, and different abilities. And of course, in this game, instead of jokers, you have rings. So you can have up to 10 rings because you have 10 fingers, and those rings basically just add different abilities, whether it's adding more multiplier, adding a higher score to your dice, and so on. It's really simple. Again, the layers of Balatro here are just super like on the nose, which isn't a bad thing by any means. I like the way that this game mixes up those concepts. Besides the rings, the dice, and the multipliers, you also get to carry 3 special cards. They can do a multitude of things. They can give you a multiplier for a single roll of dice. They can add a random ability to any of the dice that you select, permanently change a dice that you have into something better, and a multitude of other things. There's a bit of a little quirky tutorial that they put out there for when you first start the game, and I think it's fine. There's clearly some underlying layers here that you need to discover as you keep progressing through the game. In Balatro, there was up to 8 antes before you could actually win a run. In this, I'm assuming there's 6 faces of a dice, so you get to face 6 to win. Never mind, I was wrong. I beat the game. There's only 3. I think this game definitely has its positives and negatives when it comes to just how the roguelike elements work with one another. My biggest issue, though, is going to be the fact that I think this game needs a whole lot of balancing changes. Now, when it comes to roguelikes, I understand balancing can always be very wishy-washy with how people do it. Because, of course, with a roguelike, the whole point is the fact that every run is going to be different, every run is going to be new, and you're never really going to get the same outcome twice. That's kind of the fun of it, right? But alongside that, it also comes with the randomness of it all. That's a part of what makes the game fun, because not every run is going to be the same amount of ease. Some runs are going to be harder, some you're going to tell that you can just going to lose them right away, some are going to give you false hope that you can win, and some are going to come up short. It's just the nature of these games. That being said, I think this game struggles with having too many roguelike elements. Let me explain. So, of course, you have the amount of dice that you have, right? Depending on which hand you start with a set amount of dice, and you go from there. Of course, as time goes on, you're going to collect more and more dice that have different abilities, some that work well within one another, some that don't. Some dice, honestly, are just kind of useless. They either only work in certain scenarios, or they have a low probability of actually activating. Some of them actually hurt you if they activate in a certain way. Of course, you have the multipliers, which can only help you when it comes to just you roll a certain number. But because it really only works on 1 through 5, and then you get to have 6 and higher, the stamps are kind of useless because they'll only add a 0.02 or maybe a half percent of a multiplier. So unless you get lucky, you just have like a lot of them quickly, they become useless. And even then, like there's no point in having a multiplier for every time you hit the number 3. You don't want that. This is like Balatro, where you need to have a high score and then have a high multiplier to actually make that score matter. It doesn't matter if you have 100 multiplier if you're only scoring 3 points, because that's only 300. Now if you have that 300 but the 5 times multiplier, that changes things dramatically. But therein lies the problem, where getting multipliers is not easy. You can get them through the rings. Sometimes dice will give you multipliers, but otherwise you're relying on the stamps, and you don't really get much of any of them frequently enough. I feel like I'm constantly losing these games, not because I can't score, but because I don't have anything to multiply by. The rings that I'm getting, the stamps that I'm getting, they're just not enough for me to get the scores that are necessary. Also, I don't know why they had this idea, but every time you buy things in the shop, everything just gets continually more expensive. Of course, you're going to have a higher and higher score to reach as you progress, But rerolls become progressively more expensive. If you want to remove dice, that becomes progressively more expensive. Even just buying dice or buying packs, everything gets more expensive the longer you go. They do try to balance this out by any score that you have that's extra, you get to take with you all the way to the end of the level. But you have to spend it before you get to the boss. At which point you get set back to 0, so when you get to the boss, you have to reach the minimum score only using the rolls that you're given. So you could have 100k, and if the boss fight requires you 5k, congratulations, that 100k doesn't matter. Spend it before you get there, because otherwise you snooze, you lose. You just have to hit the 5k in those 4 or 5 rolls they give you. Otherwise, that's just it. You lose. Of course, the bosses themselves have their own abilities to try to nerf you. For example, one of them will only allow you to score using the dice after they've been rolled at least once, meaning all the rolls that you start off with mean 0 points total. There's other ones that will divide your score in half every single time. Bosses where you're only allowed to score on even numbers or odd numbers, and so on. And I think the bosses are fine. I think that makes sense. I think it's kind of fun. I think I like them for the most part. I think the bosses are the thing I have the least problem with. But again, we're going to double back to what I said earlier. There's so many roguelike elements in this game, and there's so little control that you have, that the run themselves kind of feel like they're against you, because if you're not getting exactly what you need, or the fact that you lose all your score right before the final boss, it's kind of like, what is the point then? If it sounds like I'm ragging on this game really hard, it's not because I dislike the game. It's because I see the potential that's there, and I want this game to succeed. I think this game has a really promising premise, and I think the game has all the right elements there already. I think it just needs to be tweaked, because right now, as it stands, I think the game is overly difficult in regards to just how many things are pit against you. And in a game all about rolling dice, which themselves are of course going to be random in regards to what face you get, you kind of need all the help you can get. Now, of course, the developer behind this game could just simply want the game to feel like that. They could just want it to be overly difficult. Maybe I just need more time with it to better understand the mechanics. But the good thing is that the developer is all over Twitter, and he has his own Discord channel where he's talking about things that he wants to change about the game. He's taking notes, he's taking surveys, and this game just released on Thursday. So I have high hopes that this game will become a better product as time goes on. Okay, quick update real quick. I did in fact beat the game this morning, so that's definitely a positive, but it was one of those games where I just had everything go perfectly for me in that round, otherwise I definitely wouldn't have won. Also, the first balance patch has been released only just 3 days after release. So again, the developer is very much open to suggestions and what people do and do not like. So keep that in mind if you're going to buy this game or thinking about buying it. That whatever state the game is in, more than likely will not be the same state the game is going to be in within, like, let's say 3 months. I think the game is going to change a lot for the better. So just keep that in mind. I still stand by what I said, but again, I do think this game is gonna get better over time. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed my first impressions video. Very much highly recommend you guys go buy Dice a Million. I think this game is only gonna get better as time goes on, and of course, there is an introduction sale if you get the game right now. If you have any thoughts, comments, or opinions that you still have, or maybe even questions about the game, feel free to leave them down in the comment section down below. I'll make sure to get back to you. If you've been playing this game, let me know what you guys think. Am I wrong about the balancing? Do you think it does need changes? What do you not like? What do you like about the game? Let me know any of that down in the comment section down below. I'm HatTopGaming. Don't forget to follow me on social media. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all later. Peace.